Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya Romanyuha. I'm General Manager of TechIsland and welcoming you today at our first Town Hall event. You see, this is completely experimental format. This is something new. So we decided to create this special format for a special purpose because as TechIsland, we see our organization as a part of a broader effort to drive positive change, to grow tech industry, to grow economy, to drive positive change in society. And our approach was always to support, to connect people, and to bring experts who can actually bring insights. Not to do everything just by ourselves alone, but to connect experts and drive positive change together. Across our work, we often see that each stakeholder having valuable insights, but they are discussed in silos. Sometimes we're not sitting in the same room, group of experts from different industries, and not sharing the expertise all together. Thus, we wanted to create a space where actually we can have this open dialogue, where we can have this constructive conversation in this round table format, seeing each other in the eyes and asking questions, sharing insights, and all together brainstorming what could be solutions on specific topics. Today we chose very special topic, which is housing, issues, demand, supply, and this is a pressing issue for all of us, people who live in Cyprus, because it shapes our everyday lives, it shapes decision of new employees who are relocating to Cyprus, it shapes decisions of locals here. It actually impacts long-term well-being of entire society. It's a complex issue. That's why we brought so many interesting speakers to have this holistic view and open dialogue. We will start today with a presentation of Pavlos Loizou, CEO of Esquire, and he is also member of our PropTech working group, active member of our community. We have also Ioana Karalambous, director at PwC, who will be moderating later our discussion with many experts from education, from real estate, from corporate world, from hospitality. But the best part of today's format, that actually all of you can participate. We will have a QR code later on the screen after Pavlos' presentation. And you can scan this QR code, you can submit your questions, you can raise your hand, we will bring you mic, and we can have this dialogue. We handpicked all of you people who are with us today. We want to get as many insights on the problem, on the solution, and maybe then we can act on a higher level with other stakeholders. Now, Pavlos, the floor is yours. Welcome to our first Town Hall event.
Thank you for the opportunity and for having me. It's a bit, first of all, it's very interesting to be here because I'm sitting next to other two PropTech founders, which signifies both the importance of real estate in the Cypriot economy, that as we know is around 15 to 70% on par with the tech industry, a little bit below tourism, and also how technology, real estate, and the direction of Cyprus is evolving and changing. First of all, this is not working, now it's working. So let's talk about population growth. So this is a bit confusing, the 4 screens, but population growth. Has population really increased more than supply? So first of all, what we are seeing is that the population of Cyprus, these are census data, the first 3 columns, 2000, 2011, 2021, has progressively been increasing with the bigger jump taking place between 2001 and 2011, right? When we joined the EU, and basically you had a lot of, also it was all the Brits moving at the time to Cyprus and everybody else who came with it. But what happened since 2021 onwards is that 70 to 80,000 people, it's actually 76,000 people, moved to Cyprus at the time, which translates to demand for roughly 30,000 units. At the same time, who came? And when we go to the who, this is key. 1/3 of the people who came to the island are low income. They are workers, right? These are domestic help, they are builders, they are the delivery people, they are everybody else that you need. So, and this is key because I remember back in 2000, when I was in the UK, there was the first xenophobia wave. Actually, the UK has this, the empire has collapsed and we are still living in the past with their two faucets, which I always had, was either cold or hot. I could never get that balance right, but anyway, irrelevant. Where, they said all foreigners should leave. And I raised my hand and I said, yes, all foreigners should leave and the British should be the one who drive the taxis, are in the hospital, clean the streets and everybody else. And everybody, of course, was shocked. Who is going to do the work? So 1/3 of the people who came to Cyprus are there to drive the industry. But then what we do see is that, yes, we have added the 70 to 80,000 people and we have permitted actually more homes than we needed, right? So the people came, the houses have been permitted, which is like, well, why do we have a problem? We're building the wrong stock, right? Because the person who is coming to be a delivery person in Nicosia, or the person who is coming to be a waiter at Matsuhista at Amara, doesn't want a villa in Peja, right? Which is what we are building. But when we look at the stock, again, here is important to note that the majority of the stock that we have is old. Old stock that is energy inefficient, and old stock that is too big, right? So when we go through the list, we see that half of the houses were built before 2000. Almost all of them have very low energy efficiency levels. And 30% of electricity is consumed by our homes, which is one of the reasons why we have all these problems in the summer months that our electricity network cannot support, right? So the climate of Cyprus is changing. I mean, here we are early December, and I don't know why I wore this, just to be cool. I should be with my T-shirt. So the energy is less. We are turning on the air conditioning all the time. Now, what has happened after 2021? We're building premium, right? First we built, I know it's not the right, let's say the politically correct. First we built for passports, right? First we brought the Chinese, then we brought basically, anyway, different nationalities, but we sold for passports. So it's premium and tourism-led products that we said. And the retrofitting rate, so the going back and actually upgrading the energy efficiency of our buildings has lagged. This is something that we're going to have a problem as a country from the EU. Happy to discuss later. So this is the latest research that came out at EU level, came out actually last Thursday. So it's 5 days old. And actually it shows that we have very few cramped houses. Cramped means, not many people in one house. So actually we are, quite relaxed, if you like. And we have many homes. Actually, the majority of the homes are bigger than what people need. Again, I'm telling you things that you don't, it's the wrong way to start about. So the problem that we have is that we have old stock that is inefficient, that is too big, right? Whilst what we are bringing are younger people in their majority who have smaller families who want to live in city center locations. And it's a structural problem. And also the structural problem starts from our society, and here I mean the locals, not only the foreigners. I'll come to the foreigners in the next slide. We have one of the lowest fertility rates in the world. So, and this by itself is causing problems in the demographics. So the local population, not only are we not having kids, but we are aging. So the locals, the Cypriots, are aging. We're becoming a lot older. And if you look at the working population, right, it's quite interesting. If you look at the demographics, the pyramids, you can see that the foreigners that are in that 25 to 45 or 25 to 40 productive group that they're coming in and driving the market. So we need, again, smaller units to accommodate fewer people because we have smaller families. People get married later, et cetera, et cetera. more rental housing, so we will come in a moment to build to rent. And why? I was having a great conversation with ChatGPT last night about it, and then I gave it to Perplexity, and then I gave it to Gemini, and we drove me crazy at the end. I don't know who was hallucinating more, and it needed some mushrooms to follow what was happening. But effectively, what has happened is that the population structure of Cyprus has changed in a manner that doesn't accommodate the stock. So already we have three things, right, going together. You have a population that is increasing mainly to inflows of younger people who are coming either as lower paid workers, about 1/3, or middle and high, one. The existing stock isn't there, it's too old, energy inefficient, too big. This is the second. And what we're having on the other side is a population that is aging and shrinking by itself. So the first thing is the developers. Our developers, and I'm conscious that I see two of them looking at me with their eye, they are too small, right? They cannot accommodate the volume of what is required or the size of projects that was required. And we can also talk about the capital markets or the lack thereof, how we fund bigger projects to accommodate all this demand. So it's not there. So we have the top 10 developers in Cyprus build or account for about 25% of output, but we have a lot of Kostas and Andreas constructions, Maria Court, Kostakis Tower. We have a lot of those, right? And that creates a lot of problems when it comes to economies of scale, which means with the fact that we do not have very good capital markets, it means that the majority of developers rely on build to sell. So what is the classic model? I'm going to build 20 apartments. I need to sell 10, 20, if you're going to go to the bank, 30% off plan, right? So I'm selling off units. That gives me the money to come in. I then go to the bank and I say to Ms. Yaldourou, please, can I have 3-4 million? Yes, of course, construction financing, probably 2 years with a rolling extension of another year. That's it. So this is the type of structure. Now, this creates problem because it means that the project itself needs to be small, and the people who are willing to take the risk up front are probably foreigners who are going to come, or somebody who is a risk taker. They're going to buy to flip, they're going to buy to do something else. So the capital market is skewing what we are building. I'm wrapping it up, right? So for me, this is the most interesting part. This is a study that we did for the Deputy Ministry of Tourism, which I think you will enjoy. So between 2011 and now, the number of tourists in Cyprus increased from 2.4 to 4 million. That means they needed 37,000 beds to sleep on. We built 4. Where did everybody else sleep? In the tent? No. Short-term rentals, Airbnb. But when you look at the Airbnb, and this was the funny thing, of the 16,000, so we went and downloaded Airbnb and Booking. We matched them and found the unique properties. There are 16,000 unique, only on those 2 sites. The database of the Ministry of Tourism has 8. So we know that there are 8,000 that are operating illegally. Even more hilarious was that when we presented to the minister, the tax officer said, 2,700 paid taxes. And the reason is that you have 3 different databases that don't talk to one another. So if you combine that with what people need, so smaller units in city center locations, etc., both the locals that are shrinking, right, demographics, and the foreigners who are coming in, with what tourists want, which is exactly the same thing, what we have done is that, yes, we are building newer stuff, the villas in Beja, but at the same time, we are taking out of the market the stuff that people want, which are the small apartments. So we are hitting the market in 2 directions. And this is, again, the issue. So to wrap it up, effectively, I came up with this acronym, it's a bit ridiculous, with the podcast. So we have a population, an old stock, demographics, supply, and tourism. And I would say that tourism is the one that is hitting the market in the most strange manner. First of all, do we intend to keep increasing the population? I think the idea here is yes, but how do we have enough water, electricity for everyone? Probably not. Schools, there are more being built, so there's a lag. How do we integrate foreigners here, right? Tanya is doing her exams in Greek next week, so we need to support her. how do we build our cities, right? It took us 45 minutes to come from Nicosia up to the entrance of Limassol, and another hour to get to here because the highway. Anyway, was one car behind the other. How do we function as a society? And then what are the practical levers? We need to build a long-term ownership capital base. So you need different type of funding to come in, to fund Imperial, to fund Cybarco, to fund Pafilia, to fund everybody else. So the money coming in needs to have different return, different structure. We need to close this tax gap that we have created with Airbnb so that we collect taxes from these individuals and not only have them around, and in this way manage what is happening, keep track of the competition that our hoteliers have. We need to regulate, and this is an initiative that is currently underway by the Developers Association. We need to regulate developers. Not everybody can be a developer or an agent. We need to mobilize the retrofit financing because we are going to be in breach, or we are in breach of EU regulations, and we're going to have a problem. And this is, especially now that the funding from the Resilience and Recovery Fund ends in 30th of June, we're going to have issues. And finally, when we talk about affordability, and this is the last bit here, we need to be talking about affordability not only about, yes, we need to talk about locals, we also need to talk about foreigners. And when we talk about foreigners, we need to distinguish that you have effectively two groups, right? The ones that are here to do the works that nobody wants to do, the unseen heroes of our country, and the other two-thirds, let's say, who are here, let's say, to do the more higher value work. Thank you for your time.
My name is Ioanna Haralambous, and I am a director at the Real Estate Advisory Team of PwC. I'm really excited to be moderating this town hall discussion today, which will be focusing on how we can unlock Cyprus' housing potential. So housing touches all of us one way or another. Either this has to do with finding an affordable place to live, attracting or retaining talent, or even improving our quality of life. So today we'll be touching upon these challenges, and we'll be discussing practical solutions of how we can build a better future for Cyprus. We have a fantastic panel of experts with us today, with diverse backgrounds and experiences, ranging from real estate developers, financiers, major employers, as well as education and hospitality experts. So let me quickly introduce our experts. From the real estate sector, we have Pavlos Loizou, of course, who has just shared with us very insightful data on this pressing issue. Michael Leptos, Management Executive of Leptos Group. Nicolas Ayomamidis, CEO of Imperial Group. Michalis Hadjipanayiotou, Honorary President of Cyprus Property Developers Association and CEO of Cybarco Development. From major employers and businesses, we have Ludmila Marokina, CEO of Sportsoft. Anna Laskina, Head of Relocation Experience at Wargaming, and Christia Evagoru, Deputy Group CEO at Payable. Representing the banking sector, we have Irini Yannourou, Manager of Large Corporate Banking Centers at Bank of Cyprus. And from the education and hospitality sectors, we have Alexis Andreou, Director of Pascal International Education, and George Ioannou, CEO of Landis Entertainment. Thank you all for being here. It is really a diverse group, and I'm looking forward to your insights. The format of this discussion is conversational. I will be guiding you with questions, but please feel free to jump in and respond to each other to share your views. Following this discussion, we will be having a Q&A session, whereby the audience is free to submit their questions through Slido using the code here there, and we will be able to respond to your questions. So we have all experienced a very resilient market the past years with strong transaction activity in different sectors, both in terms of volume and value. However, as Pavlos has just mentioned, there is still limited supply. And in some instances, we have the wrong type of supply in the market. And this, combined with the increasing demand, is causing property prices and rental rates to remain high. So with this in mind, I would want to start looking at this issue from a developer's perspective. So my first question is for Nicolas. What do you think are the main factors driving housing pressure today, and how does this affect affordability for locals and talent?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anna. Well, in order to answer that question, we need to look a bit back, what has led to where we are today, and then what is the outlook. So Pavlos said a few things, and it's always refreshing to listen to Pavlos' presentations. We came out of the 2013 financial crisis, the banking crisis, then into the Cyprus investment program, where as developers we have focused mostly on high-end market segment, and then we had COVID disrupting the whole industry. At the same time, so on the supply side, on the demand side, at the same time we have seen the tech sector growing from something negligible to now being constituting 15% of the GDP. And part of the tax incentives, or to a certain extent geopolitics, we have seen a significant influx of young professionals, highly skilled professionals coming to Cyprus because of this. At the same time, we have seen significant investments also in education, but not investments in student housing, and also the tourism growing to all-time highs, and without having the growth also of hotels or hotel units. So we had seen the rise of alternative accommodation, tourist accommodation, the Airbnb units, taking part of the stock out of the residential. Now, looking ahead, we are projecting a GDP growth of almost 3%, and at the same time, we are close to full employment conditions, below 5%. So unless we expect that AI is going to take all of the new jobs, we will see more people coming. And the multiplier effect, Pablo, you mentioned 1 to 2. Statistics I've seen go up to 1 to 3. So for one skilled individual coming to Cyprus, you need another 3 people to come to serve in the economy, either in construction, retail, F&B. So a lot more people are coming. We see in education is a strategic priority based also on the state's vision for 2035. So more investments are expected and are welcomed. And tourism, you see both our airports are extending their concessions and expanding their infrastructure to facilitate even more traffic. Generally, as an economy, we have an outward-looking approach. We see strengthening ties with big economies like India now. We don't know how that will play out, but so demand is expected to continue, and people coming into Cyprus and looking for housing are expected to continue and be strong. So unless something changes on the supply side or how we plan, I think it's not good news for affordability. Demand will continue to outpace supply, and if we don't have affordability, the tech sector and Cyprus's ability to attract foreign direct investment and talent into the sector, I think will suffer in the medium term. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. I think it is clear that limited supply does not only impact affordability, but also availability of suitable and flexible options, housing options for a diverse population. In that respect, Mihaly, do you see any prospects for a market correction? And what measures do you think could bring that correction? This could range from planning, regulatory, financial.
Actually, it's refreshing going somewhere that I used to go to this type of forums, and I was one of the youngest. So it's refreshing that I'm one of the oldest. Look, I've been in this industry for many years, and we've done some very big projects as Cyparco and Vanidis Group. And something that I've been saying, that whatever forum I go, it's demand and supply defines pricing. I studied many years. I don't remember many things from what I studied. I recall that. So unless we fix, I mean, it's so simple. If we want to be attractive and increase our population and bring people to work in Cyprus, these people, we need housing. They're going to need schools, they're going to need roads, they're going to need, all the restaurants and facilities. So if you want to do that, at the same time, you have to make the steps that you were going to give them an affordable, inverted commas or not, living. And you have to fix the supply. And, we in Cyprus, we have the unfortunate thing, we're probably one of the countries that have per capita the most politicians. We have so many politicians and so many political parties, and we have elections every presidential, and then we have the elections of parliament. And whenever those happen, everything freezes. So we started to make our system of getting planning permits better. Actually, we started in making 5 municipalities. We ended up, I don't know, with 20, I've lost track. We started off making the system more efficient, and it's, in some areas it become more efficient to build your house or a building of 20 apartments, but it's completely inefficient to make a bigger project nowadays. And if we want to solve the supply issue, we need big projects. We start everybody building, buildings of 6 apartments. It's going to take us for ages to fix this. So we need to fix how quickly we can get the permits. Just to give you an idea, we used to, when we were doing our feasibility studies, we're buying the land. We don't start selling before we have a planning permit, and we used to say it's going to be about 6 months. And then it would take us another 6 months for a building permit to start construction. Now the minimum is 12 months for planning and another 9 months for building. What does this mean? I'm keeping less stock land because I want to start selling if I'm going to buy new stock land. It means that I'm paying more interest. It means that prices are going up and the dynamics of the market. So for me, number one, if we want to fix supply, is we need to get the planning right. At the same time, they need to fix, all this bullshit that we say that in Cyprus we have to define how big an apartment has to be. There's a public servant somewhere in Nicosia, and I'm from Nicosia, so that says that the minimum size of a 1-bed apartment has to be 55 square meters. That same public servant has bought an apartment in Berlin of 35 square meters. And they're fully functional, and you can easily live in them. You cannot have big apartments at the same time have smaller, prices, lower prices. So we have to solve this. The market defines how big the apartments, the studios, and all this. So this again will help supply. Because if I'm allowed to build more units, that means I'm going to put more supply in the market. Third thing, you go buy a plot in the city center, and then again the legislation says in this area you are not allowed to build studio. Okay, this was, 15 years ago. That area might be completely different. Exnes might have there an area that they have, so many people working, or the techs or whoever. But I'm not allowed to make studios. I have to put 3 beds. So if I have to put 3 beds, who am I going to sell them to? So I don't get that piece of land. Again, it impacts supply. And the fourth one, because we're seeing throughout Europe and throughout the world that, foreigners are bad, kick them out, we don't want them. Unemployment in Cyprus is 0, not 5%, it's 0. I don't think there's a single person that wants a job that cannot find a job. So we need people to come from abroad to work in jobs that Cypriots or the high-end or whatever need, all of these tech guys to do these jobs. They cannot find plumbers, we cannot find electricians, we cannot find builders, we cannot find people at the restaurants. So unless they sort this out, and unless our mentality changes, and not seeing a guy on a walk bike and say, I'm going to run over him because he shook his bike a little bit and blocked the road, unless we become a little bit more open as a society and make it friendly for these guys to come, because trust me, they could easily go in other countries and the whole Europe. So again, we need these people, because even if we get the planning, permitting, sizes, change their mind, how they think in the government or the parliament, we still need these people to build and increase the supply. So these are the steps that I think we have to do if we want to fix the problem.
Thank you, Mihaly. It is clear that changes in the planning process and the regulations would definitely help to alleviate at least part of the problem. On another note, I mean, which adds to what Michalis has just mentioned, is another concept that could potentially help to decrease the problem of affordability and availability of stock is the build-to-rent model and build-to-rent concepts of residential projects. We have seen that in countries where these type of models have been implemented successfully, they have managed to decrease the problem of affordability. Even in Cyprus, the first project, build-to-rent project that was developed in Limassol, has already had an impact on the rental rates in the surrounding area. So that gives us an idea of the implications that this could have on the overall market and economy if such concepts are replicated across Cyprus. So this is a question for Pavlos. As an independent person here, how viable do you think that the build-to-rent model currently is in Cyprus, and what changes would make these projects more attractive to both locals and foreigners?
Sorry, I have a comment because of what you are saying. I will answer the question, but my socialist cannot.
You're a socialist capitalist. Everybody's a capitalist.
We like, how do you call it, buying the fish and sharing it at the same time. I think the issue here is how do you spread the love, right? So to come and say that the planning authority will allow on a 1,000 square meter city center block for anyone to go and build studio housing. The question there is, okay, but if I am Andreas and Maria who lives in Polemithia, in Ipsonas, Kamaklia, how does that benefit me? Because if the education system has failed and a lot of people are taking their kids to private schools and there is amazing demand for private schools and you see that people are moving away, the fact that we're coming and say we're going to build more schools, bracket, private, for Andreas and Maria who cannot afford the I don't know how much it's in Limassol, but the 9,000 euro per year per kid fees, what have you done? You have not done anything for them. So I think that, and that is a fundamental part of the problem. That's why you are seeing a combination of extreme positions and jokes now taking up parts of parliament. That we have not accommodated, we are not addressing the needs of the people other than by handing out grants. And now that leads to the build-to-rent. The build-to-rent, in my view, is a capital markets problem. And it's a capital markets problem because when you sit down with the investors, they turn around and say, look, if I build this 50, money is not a problem, right? So we are past that. So somebody investing 5, 10, 20, 30 million, 100 million, that is not the issue. But they come in and say, look, I'm going to build this thing. I need to buy the land, it's expensive. I need to build, there are no builders to be found. Then, because I'm renting, I need to take on the 19% VAT. And at the end of it, I'm going to make 4, 5, 6%. It doesn't make sense. I mean, from me as an investor, it doesn't make sense. So what the government is doing is that they're coming around giving grants to developers with relaxations. But this is not the way to do it because you are fixing the wrong thing. Where is the problem? The problem is that the developer, or rather, not the developer, the investor, because the developer is not the investor. The investor is the holder of the asset afterwards. What do they buy? So you need somebody who has an interest in owning the asset long term. If I'm owning the asset long term, I need two things. One, which is what we were working with Bank of Cyprus back in 2015, which is the introduction of REIT legislation, real estate investment trusts, so that if I'm the owner, I pay no corporate tax, provided that I distribute 70% of my profit to my shareholders. Right? So we have started that process to write the law, and then we abandoned it halfway there. So the legal structure needs to be in place. The second, clearly the VAT needs to be addressed, but I think that's a minor problem. The third, we need to change the capital structure. So the money from the investor who can generate 8, 10, 12% return cannot go to fund such a project. But what if we change the capital structure? If we come and say, like they have done in Greece with the Hercules program, which has to do with not performing loans, but it's the same logic. 60%, so if you think about the funding of a project, and I'm finishing here, that it's 1 million, the bottom 600,000, the lowest risk, comes from the government. So the government guarantees that loan, that amount that goes in. They fund the project. The next 20% comes from Bank of Cyprus, not as a 3-month loan or a 3-year loan, but the way they do it, you do it with your mortgage-backed securities, where you structure a bond that is 10, 20 years. So even 30 years, you can structure the bond. Higher risk. And then at the top, you have the investor that goes in and they put in the 20% of the equity, that is what is listed on the stock exchange. If you actually do it, if you structure it that way, the government, from a 6% income yield, the government makes 3, the bank makes 5, and the investor makes 12% return. So if we structure the funding of these projects in a different way, then it means that we can actually go to investors and say, look, come to Cyprus, right? No problem. Your 20 million actually translates to 100. The banks, you give them the funding, and the government itself doesn't give grants, because grant is you throw the money there. They're making actual return on their money. So I think that if we are going to fund the bigger projects, we need to change the capital structure and how these projects are funded, or else the incentives and everything else, we are still limiting ourselves. We are back. We will solve the problem a little bit, but not holistically, and not to be able to have the funding available to the bigger projects.
Thank you, Pablo. I think we should move to Irini just to tell her, from a financing perspective, how would banks consider financing such structures of build-to-rent models? And I think at a broader level, what are the main challenges and opportunities you face when supporting housing projects that aim to improve affordability and availability?
Good morning, everyone. I'm here as part of the finance sector and financing the economy and developing projects. Some of you and some of the people in the audience, they know me, and we have cooperated in the past. I will say that the banks are very keen in financing such projects and in supporting the construction companies and real estate companies so that they can implement their plans, they can provide sufficient supply to the market to match the demand that can help to improve the affordability and stabilize the prices and improve the affordability. Definitely, there are many challenges that the banks take into consideration in the financing, and this is what Pablo said before. Not everyone can be a developer, so the track record and experience of the developing company, the real estate company, it's very important. The know-how of the market and how long has been actually in developing such projects and the typology of projects they're actually doing. Usually the bank will request a feasibility study with a market analysis to ensure that the specific project will actually meet what the market needs. I mean, it's what Pablo said. If there is a need for a more modest price project to be targeted to lower income, and everyone is building high-scale, very expensive, luxurious houses, so this will create an imbalance in the demand that there is in the market. So this is one of the big challenges. I will talk in more banking terms also, that it's very important that the equity of the investor is in place, so the capital structure is built in a way that make the project viable. We have serious challenges with recently the rising increase in the construction material and the overall construction cost. We have faced problems with the timely completion and delivery of projects that creates problems to the market. And one of the biggest problems we have is what previously Michalis has mentioned, the absence of timely submission of permits, because as you're aware, the banks cannot proceed with the disbursement of any funding unless they have in place all relevant permits, planning, building, environmental. So this is a big stumbling block because we have a big pipeline of projects, good, healthy, and sound projects that cannot proceed, the financing cannot proceed just because of the delay of permits. And this, as a result, would reduce the supply of relevant units into the market, and this will increase the prices. So these are major challenges that we face. I will say the banks look very favorably to finance projects, especially in build-to-rent. and will be more, let's say, provide flexible terms and competitive prices, especially for projects that where there is a very experienced developer, where there's a good quality of tenants, if there are long-term rentals that can support and sustain the repayment of the loan throughout the whole period of its life, the status of these tenants, if they're families, if they're workers, if they're students. So this will depend a lot of the analysis of the quality of the rentals, so that, and to ensure that this debt, because what the bank wants is actually the debt to be repaid and we don't have no performing loans. So I will, as a conclusion, I will say the banks are very open and they're very keen to finance such projects and to help the companies implement their plans and give them access to funding and liquidity so they can actually proceed with projects that can give value to the economy and the society with affordable pricing.
Thank you, Rini. It is encouraging indeed that banks are looking into these projects favorably because at the end of the day, financing is the cheapest source of finance, so it is important to have banks on board.
And if I could also add to what Pavlos said, for the capital structure, indeed, there are resilient funds in Europe, in Greece, that can fund a big project, especially infrastructure projects, where there is a big element coming from the government with low fixed interest rate for a long duration that helps a lot the viability of the project, an element of the bank and an element of equity that makes it much more feasible to create such projects and quickly inject them into the market to stabilize the supply versus demand.
Thank you. Collaboration between the private and the banking sector is really important, and I think collaboration is a key element to success between various stakeholders of the markets, including also the private and the public sector. So, Michael, from your experience, what is currently missing in the housing ecosystem, and if addressed, could accelerate progress? Are there specific gaps in coordination, incentives, or capacity?
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for the invitation from TechIsland. It's my pleasure to be here, and I like the setting being social and more interactive with the audience. I would like to start by saying that one person's opinion is just, their own thing, but when many people, many professionals from the same industry have similar opinions, it is very likely a fact. When we meet either in panels like this one, in Chamber of Commerce meetings, with other professionals from the development industry, we all have similar opinions, and you will find many of them here a bit repetitive, which is because they are the facts and the problems that we are facing in our industry. I would like to start by saying that the public sector and the private sector in real estate development, they share the same mission, which is to match the needs of the housing demand in Cyprus. With that being said, we have the same mission, we have the same goals, although we feel that there is a clear miscommunication, a lack of communication and accountability between the two. Which create many of the problems. One clear example that I would like to take from today, which is notable by everyone here, and previously mentioned also by Michalis, is that Pavlos started, which is analytical expert, with a presentation showing the population demographic versus housing in a matter of the last 4 years, maybe 5 years, and yet we have a process which takes planning 2 or 3 or more years in big projects that will actually solve the problem and not just patch a small gap. This is a number one issue. And now we're talking only about planning and permitting and releasing. Consider buying the land, planning for the land, a business model, selling it, and actually completing the circle. It is a very timely period, and a big proportion of it goes to planning and releasing, which needs to be drastically released, and it is a change that we need to do if we want to improve our problem.
Thank you, Michael. I think proper planning and better coordination are key elements for success going forward. The last question of this segment is open to any of the participants. So I would like to ask, how can developers better design housing solutions that meet the evolving needs of today's workforce and families, considering factors like affordability, location, lifestyle preferences?
Sure. I would like to start with this one. Also, revisiting some things we've said already, but with more emphasis on them. When it comes, we're talking about design and we're talking about supply and affordability. It is different things and they need to be addressed differently. As Michalis said, our problem in the housing market nowadays is very simple. It's supply and demand, but this consists of maybe hundreds of different reasons, sectors, each of their own. It is a whole theory, a whole industry to be addressed at. Planning and design and housing. We talked about sizes, and we're building bigger than what we need to. This is not taken into account enough. Ideally, in a perfect world where we have enough space and enough and optimal expansion, everyone would like to be in a spacious one-bedroom and a spacious two-bedroom with guided sizes and laws with minimum sizing. This is not the case in Cyprus, and we see that we have many people, a big proportion of housing owners and buyers are people in the primary sector, as Pavlos said. They, first of all, are not able to afford big housing for a variety of reasons again, but also they do not need such spacious housing. They do not need their own independent parking. They do not need an extra bedroom, big corridors. Removing or abolishing a law that forces developers to build with minimum sizes would be an immediate remedy to our problem of design.
I think you have to make choices. I mean, either you're a society that you trust that, businesses and the capitalism or whoever social capitalism or capitalism works, and then you make some rules around it. So, and then there is, if it's abuses, you penalize them, because one of the biggest problems that we have in Cyprus is our legal system. Despite we have good laws and we've got good lawyers, if you decide to go to court, it takes 5 to 10 years, which is total mess. So people abuse. They say, I'm going to break the law, because by the time I'm going to face the penalty, it's going to be, who cares? So, but for me, if you believe in the capitalism, you have to allow the market and the business people to be able to design and build towards the needs. And because they're quicker to adjust. Or you go to a more, controlled environment. I'm going to be doing this and this and that. But many of our policies are very contradicting. We say we want height, and then a mayor gets elected and he says, in my city, I don't want to have extra floors. So everything is frozen. Then another mayor comes out and says, I'm pro giving you floors, but every extra floor that I'm going to give you, I have designed, me and my other members of the municipality, this great formula that based on how many floors on this and that, I would put 20%, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, who the fuck thought about it? Said, so you have to make a decision. You need supply, and you have to put regulation in, minimum regulation, and you have to fix, for me, something that they need to immediately fix is the planning zoning. You have to define where I'm going to allow to put high-rise buildings, where I'm going to be putting offices, where I want to put smaller sizes of apartments and this, so that we all know and we make a little bit, more, we know what we're doing. At the moment, we don't know what we're doing. And it creates a lot of issues, it raises the prices, it creates inefficiencies and all that. So that's what I would fix.
I may add, the Greek word is poleudomia, which means town building. The correct word is what they have in English, which is town planning. And this is why we're maybe confused on the terminology. We're not planning our cities correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. I think finding new ways to build the right homes with better planning and collaboration are the key parameters to drive this industry forward.
Sorry, because for me, if the markets change, you have digital nomads. I think the private sector is quick to adjust. But if it takes me 2 years to change the plans and get permits, that's going to be a new, there's going to be something new.
Exactly.
So we're always chasing the curve.
Thank you. So our next segment will look at how housing problems affect businesses here in Cyprus. So we'll hear from the three ladies about how housing affordability and availability impact their organizations and what solutions they think would help. Anna, what are the biggest housing-related challenges your employees or candidates face when relocating to Cyprus? And do you think that these challenges are slowing down Cyprus' competitiveness?
Thank you, Iona, for your question. It's a really interesting one, and it's something that we actually see happening so much. Okay, so dealing with relocations for many years now and talking to so many individuals and families that have relocated to Cyprus and whom we've assisted through this very sometimes complex process, what we see is, if I could take all the obstacles and go to two, the first one is again reflecting what Pavlos mentioned about supply near business hubs. So a lot of people who come here, their first request is, I want to stay somewhere close to the office or somewhere where it's central so that when I finish my work, I can go to the gym, I can go meet my friends, I can go socialize, go to restaurants, bars, kind of go outside. For families, this is even more important because they're looking for building a lifestyle around their long-term stay in Cyprus. And for their kids, is it safe? Do you have parks? Do you have playgrounds for kids? What's around? Where's the schools? So that is the very first question that happens. How can I live next to the office? So they start looking for accommodation, what they find. And what we realize, the problem is not so much that there is nothing. There is. It's just energy inefficient. It's old construction. It's not renovated. So when they're making a choice, they have to think, okay, I'm going to spend this much on my rent. Then I'm going to think, what are my electricity and my bills? I have to add on top of that. Now, is the quality and price meeting what I'm expecting here? And often not. So this then leads to our second challenge, which kind of forces these people to then expand the radius of where they're looking for property. So they have to trade off. And then they go a bit further. So they move outside of central areas. And the next challenge is mobility. Okay? A lot of people who relocate here don't come from countries where the culture is very reliant on cars. So the public transport in many countries is very well developed. People rely on that on their lifestyle, and they are used to using public transport or walking. In Cyprus, walking 9 months of the year is a bit tough. Then not everybody can get a driving license. Okay, so actually the experience is that it might take you up to 12 months to actually get the license if you're lucky. Okay, so that problem is actually not a 1 or 2 month situation, it's much longer. Then they're saying, okay, if I'm living so far from the office, how am I going to get to work? I want to work hybrid, I want to work predominantly from home, but your role requires you and your team, or project requires you to be in the office, so that becomes a challenge for us. When they do start using public transport, we do see that this is very impractical. The buses, for example, are not everywhere. So if you're living in one area, you need to figure out how and where you're going to move around. Then if you can walk, great, but then you want to go and get a bicycle or get an electric scooter, and the infrastructure and the road is not developed for safe usage of this alternative means of transport. So those are the two very big criteria that we do face, and this is something that we face in majority of our relocations, and we guide them, we support them, we try to set their expectations the right way. But I think that it's not especially affecting us to hire the talent or let's say retain, because when we're talking about retainment, we're thinking once you're here, how can we incentivize you to stay here for the long term, really build your life here in Cyprus, not for the next 3 years, but for the next 10 years, build your family, stay here, invest in property, buy property. So how do you get a loan? Can I get a loan to buy this property? So that's like the next level in terms of building a life in Cyprus. So that's it.
Thank you, Anna. I think these are common concerns, and they extend beyond people relocating from abroad. I think there's still issue even for people moving between cities, local people. So, Christia, how does housing availability or affordability impact your ability to hire or retain talent today? And if you could improve one housing-related process to ease employee onboarding, what would it be?
Thank you very much, Joanna. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to TechIsland for organizing this. I feel like I don't want to answer the question, but rather go on a rant about this topic. Firstly, let me say that I agree fully with what Anna said. I echo it entirely. I am not a real estate expert by no means. Payable is a fintech in the payments industry. We have a workforce of over 330 people across the globe. Most of us sit in the Cyprus office. We are very much pro to working from the office rather than any other measure. And there is a big discussion going on with our talent acquisition manager, Carolina, who is great, keep pushing us to offer more and more hybrid option or work from home option, and we keep on trying to accommodate it while not being entirely happy about it because we do believe in the culture that is built in the office. But this is indeed one of the issues that we are facing, that we want to be together, we want to build business, we're targeting fast growth, and to do that, we do believe that we need to be with each other. So first of all, the hybrid that Anna mentioned is one good impact in one sense, but then it leads to certain other implications. Now, the reason I mentioned that we have presence abroad as well is because I see some very interesting trends, right? We have around 90 people in Germany paying very high taxes, and we have around 50 people in the UK also paying very high taxes, especially nowadays. And you can see very different trends to those people who have started to reach out to the head offices in Cyprus, wishing to relocate, right? From Germany, they don't want to. From the UK, everybody is trying to run out of that country and into another one, right? Why is that? First of all, in Germany, there is very, very specific employment and social security laws that protect the employees for the long term. So nobody wants to leave the country or the German entity or whatnot, okay? To the point that everybody is very well educated on the point. And even if you throw more money into the equation, it's non-negotiable. In the UK, it's not as strong. So maybe we should be thinking about how do we retain talent on the island, which is going to lead to, the buy-to-let apartments being used and reused for the long term, and improving the overall economy through recycling of stuff, which, by the way, makes even more sense with the new incentives from the taxman, because now the band has gotten reduced from the 100K mark to the 50, 55K mark, whatnot. So it means we're targeting individuals at the lower bracket that may want to do this for a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, and then move on. Sorry, again, I'm going on around, but I have so many thoughts. So I think what we need to be looking into is not just the housing problem in isolation, which is an issue, and I'm glad that we're discussing it, but I think it's a lot more than that. We need to think about the protections that we afford to employees, and I mean all employees. I'm not distinguishing between local and foreigners. For me, everybody is local who's working for the local economy. We need to make sure that there is affordable housing. I cannot bear have another conversation with a colleague of mine, more so the non-Cypriots than the Cypriots, literally begging me to find a solution for them because it's not 40% of their salary that they're spending on housing. It's very close to 60, 65%. They need to be couples in order to be able to afford to live, especially in Limassol, and they cannot go to Nicosia to live because it takes an hour and a half to drive into the city, right? So that's no longer an option. One of the things that I just want to draw from a personal experience as well, while we're at it, I did have a conversation very recently with a very young colleague who's actually in my team, and he's one of the most capable people I've met, who was actually asking me to reconsider his salary because he couldn't afford to live here. And he was really trying to see whether he would need to move out of the country with his wife because they didn't have the possibility to be living here. We are a small company, and I was able to do a few tricks and jump over a few hoops and beg a few people and make certain things happen, because when you give something to one person, then what does that mean for the same person in the team and so on. So you need to, it's a whole thing. But what happens in bigger organizations, right? So I'm gonna leave it at that because I've overstayed my welcome. But I do think that the housing issue, it's not an issue in isolation. There is a bunch of things that we need to be doing at the same time. I echo everything that Anna said on the workforce side.
Thank you very much. Ludmila, if we look at the bigger picture, what other obstacles do families and individuals encounter when arriving in Cyprus, and how do organizations like yourself deal with this?
First of all, I would like to thank TechIsland for this nice setup today. Very unusual setup because I visit a lot of TechIsland setups. And in this setup, I want to start. Good morning. My name is Lyudmila Marechkina, and I'm workaholic. I'm here because it's a painful topic for our company, and I can speak very diverse because we represent different businesses in one holding. We actually combine IT and marketing company, and as well as educational. We have one licensed school and 2 kindergartens, all under the same umbrella. And why we did it? Because we realized that unfortunately market cannot help us. At one point, we had so high demand for kindergartens and schools that we could not financially support our relocated employees to cover all the expenses. So we have calculated and realized it's better to have in-house small school and facilitate all these kids and families and give them security. Because when we have in-house school, it's 100% security that kids will not be kicked out, family has secure place in the school, even if they are relocated in the mid of year, they know they will be accepted. We do our best to take kids, to make them feel comfortable and to go on in the mid of the academic year. But unfortunately, it still cannot solve the problem with relocation, and it creates not only problem to recruit people, because how you understand, when we recruit people, they start making search market. And of course, when they try to understand and make simple math, but very brutal math, I will give you some numbers. I think you're going to share with me this. I can speak openly and share. Let's say mid IT developer salary is between range 3,500 to 4,500, which is quite good, I believe, for the market if the person is not paying 60% out of the salary for rent. And if it's single household family where only one parent is working and they have, let's say, even one kid, and they go to private school, which is average per annum is between 5,000 to 12,000, depending on the high level of the private school they're taking kid. What is remaining? We cannot speak about savings, we cannot speak about additional activities. We will never reach the bank to go and take loan because they demand 30% to give deposit, to give the loan to the foreigner, and even I think for the locals the same. I want to speak here not only for relocated people, because we have a lot of Cypriot families as well, who is struggling exactly the same situation. We have like young people, 20s, 30s-year-old, just married, who wants to move out of the houses of their parents, but they cannot do it because it's not affordable. So they have to stay, not because they are lazy with their parents, but because they cannot afford to go and rent something and save. But the same is for relocated families which have even triple situation. So one question which I really want to raise here, and we face it for the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, actually when the international conflicts about which nobody wants to speak because it's a very burning subject, but it impacts Cyprus a lot with relocated people from different regions. We have high level of rental fees for the apartments. It's not just high-level fees, but as colleagues said here, is not properly legalized. People are not secure. They're coming and having rental agreement for 1 year. And what happens? In 6 months, the landlord is coming and saying, sorry, I'm selling it because they ordered me good price. And they kick people out with notice of 2 weeks. How we can imagine someone relocated from the country just setting up and integrating the local system to be kicked out in the middle of the year and trying to struggle something. Definitely they will find something quicker, but even more higher priced. So I believe if we are also talking about suggestions, I don't know where all these thoughts will go, but I'm also with a legal background myself, and I strongly believe that such type of contracts needs to be government backed and standardized. We are all, I mean, like a lawyer, I can create 20, 25 pages rental agreement for a 1-bedroom apartment, but I know it will not secure none of the parties. If tomorrow they will have to struggle, you're right. It's 7 years court case, people just wave like this and don't care. So I believe it should be a standard template which will organize this situation, that the cap for the increase will not go higher, because every year it's 15%, 10%, they do whatever they want. I understand people want to earn money, but we need to understand both sides. So this is one of the very burning topics when we relocate people. What we do as a company, of course, we are trying to assist, we are trying to help, but we are facing other situation. It's tax impact. We as a companies, and I believe a lot of companies, tech companies in Cyprus, ready to help relocated people and pay partially their rents, pay relocation costs, which we are doing, pay other things, but all of these are taxable. So I believe that if the government just could make it as a business expense and not taxable benefit for employees, a lot of companies could help and invest more in this direction and make rents more affordable, relocation more easy. I promise to you to give you numbers for how much companies like us losing on the situation with house lack on the market. The average cost for relocation for one person is around 15 to 25,000. Visas, all the relocation, the first stay homes until they found proper rent and so on. And what we are facing, this person in 12, maximum 18 months is announcing that he's leaving the country because he cannot. The math is not matching the cost. They cannot afford. They're very happy that we have nice beaches and nice sun above our head, but we do not have infrastructure. The cost for rent is high. The property purchase is not affordable. So what they're doing, they are leaving. But for us, ROI for this employee retention is 3 or 4 years, meaning that if my company is losing during a year around 15 to 20 employees like this, my loss is 600 to 900,000. So what we are thinking, if I lose 900,000, I prefer to go buy a plot somewhere and build by myself. I will find one good developer. I will come and say, I have 5 plots. I will build affordable apartments for my employees. And what I will do, I'm not going to rent them. I will give them a loan, either with very small interest, less than the banks give, or even without interest, because I need them to stay. Especially for high-level, C-level, productive people, I need them to stay in the country. Unfortunately, nowadays government don't do anything for these people who stay. I will point now on very painful subject. All these conflicts are going to finish sooner or later. We know all this. Now it's 3-year situation. And what has been done, from my point of view, approximately nothing to keep these people to invest in the country. Yes, they invest short term. They came, they get good salaries, they pay taxes, but what is a big percentage? You will know better because you are an analytical expert. I don't know. How much of these people purchase the property, so they stay in the country, they will not leave, they integrated their kids in the system? Very small amount. Because it's not possible. They cannot. If they go to the banks, you know how many times we are going for meetings with the banks, we are discussing. Banks are coming to us, bring us people, we give loans. Finally, what is happening? People, they cannot afford give at least, let's say, 100,000 because they cannot save to buy a 2-bedroom apartment for a family, which costs in Limassol minimum 300 to 400,000. The high rates. Plus, when they come, the banks here usually do not count financial history of the employee abroad. They are very skeptical. We don't know how you earn, where you earn, and so on. So they need to count what they earn here, but the experience, how long? 2 years, 3 years people are here. So it's so difficult for people to justify their financial status, to get savings, to get good rate, to buy something. And there is no assistance from nowhere, including government. We are like bottlenecked. We cannot continue investing non-stop. Business is business, and the investors need to earn also their money. I mean, like, business is not charity. We're trying our best, but unfortunately, there are also limits. I'll give you another example, because I said I can speak from different topics. It's about permits. We are not building, so we are not developers, but I absolutely agree that permits needs to be done through the fast track, especially for special type of facilities. Schools, medical centers, sport facilities. Currently, we are in the stage to obtain license to build ice skating arena. First and unique in Cyprus. You never had in Cyprus any ice skating arena with true professional rings. What do you think, how long we are getting for this license? Is anyone care? I wanted to use another word, but I don't want, I will keep my ladies' professional attitude. No. And believe me, year by year it postponed, and it can just end up that the investor would say, why do I need to invest so much money, which most probably I will never have back any profit? To do what? Just because they try to attract people, they see that the company is going to grow, and they want people to stay. This is a big impact because all the relocated people, not only from post-Soviet countries, but from Europe, they get used to these facilities. Proper professional sport facilities for gymnastics, pools, ice skating arenas, good parks, good kids centers. I have so many employees who is coming in half a year and saying, I don't know what to do with my kids. I don't know where to take them on Saturday and Sunday. There is nothing. And they're saying to me, we are bored to go to the beach. But what we do in winter. So what I'm trying to say is that, my opinion, real estate, here in Cyprus, they see real estate as real estate, but it's not correct. Housing problem is not just real estate, and it's not just problem of developers. It's a common problem of infrastructure. As we already said about planning permit, I believe if they issue big, 1,000 units in one place, they need immediately to think what is going to be nearby. How many schools, how many medical facilities, which roads are going to be. We do not have it like this. And even for studios, I agree that these studios in the center of Limassol will be very useful for tech people who arrived. They don't want to buy a car and spend even 10,000 euro because they are not sure. They will take their small bike or even walk, and this studio for a young guy, 25 years old, this is what he needs because he can take a bus. We have buses only in tourist areas, unfortunately. The rest you need to wait 1 hour or 2 hours to take the bus and go to your office. So yes, we need this. Companies like us, we need these centralized, affordable properties. We need as well properties which is close to the offices outside and close to the schools. We need transportation, proper transportation. And I believe it's not that difficult just to create normal buses which will follow the special schedule and not come once per hour. I'm sure that a lot of people will start using it. Now we don't use it because we don't have it. The same as building of the property. Each house has mostly one parking, if we are not talking about very luxury. But most of the families, especially Cypriot families, they all have 2 cars. So you're facing the situation that you have 12 apartments building, 12 parking is available, and the rest 12 cars, they're parked just side of the road. And honestly, I can continue speaking long about all these situations. I don't want to waste your time and just want to emphasize that what we need, it's my opinion, we need to look at rental situation to make it more standardized. We need to see how we can help young families, relocated and local, to take more affordable loans. And I believe it's possible to do with kind of guarantee from the government. As my colleague said, we need to secure these people because it's not often easy to renew their permits, and people are all the time scared when they see the terms is coming if this program will continue. So they need to know that it's something stable and they're not going to be kicked out of the country tomorrow. We need to look at the affordable schools and possibilities, maybe even semi-private schools if it's possible, but nobody ever from the government tried to discuss. We passed nightmare to get license for the school. I don't want even to discuss it here. A lot of people heard already my stories. The last what I want to see is the planning. Yes, the country needs to go with the town planning. Building, it needs to have necessary facilities nearby and at least to have fast track for the most important social and cultural constructions, as I said. Healthcare, education, culture, sport facilities, as well as I suggest we have to put a build to rent in the same fast track position. The last thing which I want to emphasize is I was on the meeting in the President Palace a couple of years ago, or 1.5 years ago, where they have represented future changes, including the blue paper and all the things. And one of the changes which has been promised and never came live, it's this fast track actually, and dedication of special project manager from the government for the investors who is investing. It was nothing specified, but any project cost above 20 million. Unfortunately, even this, nothing happened. We still do not have fast track. We still do not have dedicated people who can help your application for building permit to be speed up. So that's actually my main thought, which I want to emphasize today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ludmila, you've touched upon a number of topics and shared a lot of views and insights. Thank you very much. I would like to focus on one of the things you have mentioned about social infrastructure, schools, healthcare, transportation, because it's the integration of all these services that would make actually Cyprus a very good place to live and work. So that takes us to Alexis. I have a question about how this rising influx of international professionals has impacted the demand for international schools, and what challenges do you face in meeting this demand, and how is the sector reacting to these challenges?
Hi, everyone. In our industry, there is some light in the tunnel, so the thoughts I'm going to share with you today are a bit more positive, unlike the previous speakers. The truth is that the K-12 education sector wasn't prepared for the influx of international students in order to accommodate them, but the situation is becoming better and better. The reason is because most of the schools now who have the possibility to expand, let's say they have density or there is available land around the school facilities, they are trying to do their best. We have big funds that came to Cyprus, and as far as I know, during 2026, I expect at least another 2 to 3 very big funds specializing in education. They're coming to Cyprus either to acquire existing schools or the established schools, even greenfield projects. Of course, it's going to take some time to solve the problem fully, but at least partially, I see that every year the problem is better and better. There is an issue with fees, as you mentioned earlier, but I believe the more schools we have, especially when these funds, they come to Cyprus, the competition will be bigger, and I expect the fees to be accessible, if I may use this word. By the way, the fees are not comparable between the cities here in Cyprus. I mean, Limassol, I'm sure you are aware that everything is much more expensive here. Also, the other point I want to mention is that the problem with the availability of places, it wasn't, and it is not the same across the island. So we have the biggest problem here in Limassol, then a bit better situation in Paphos and Larnaca. Again, a bit better situation in Paralimni, and in Lefkosia, actually there is no problem. So there are many places in Nicosia, and we can accommodate many students there. Now, this recent incentive from the government with the VAT reduction to 5%, I think this is towards the right direction. I believe that it will attract the attention of even more funds to come and explore opportunities here in Cyprus, because I can tell you from experience, based on the biggest project we did in the island here in Limassol, the new facilities of Pascal, the construction cost went sky high. So I think to build a proper school, like a primary or secondary education in one campus now, you should be looking in 35 million minimum, plus the land. I'm talking about the construction. So the good thing is that we attracted the interest of all these funds who have the financial ability to invest so much money, because from my experience, let's say being a family business acquired by Globe Educate, I'm working at the moment for the fund. we are in position to do things that we couldn't imagine a few years ago. So this is good. I believe that within the next few years, the problem would be solved nearly to 100%. But even if you manage to solve the housing problem, and let's say we don't have availability of places across the board, we can be creative and we can consider for at least a number of years other ideas like having an afternoon cycle, etc. So the problem, I believe, is the housing. There isn't a real problem with the availability of places at the moment. I see schools and investors trying to solve the problem. As I said before, we were not prepared because we didn't have the information in hand that there would be an influx of international students. Now we have the information. I can tell you that all schools are planning ahead. There is no fast track, as Ludmila said before. They promise about a fast track. I haven't seen a fast track, and it's so complicated, the situation. Although they really want to have a fast track. But the good thing with education is that they tend to ignore the fact that we are profit-making institutions. And when we talk with them, they say, okay, you are offering, a service. And they try to be as quick as possible. And we are fortunate enough to experience this, not fast track, but track, if we may call it. So, yeah, from my side, the message I want to deliver is that whatever problem we experience, I don't see it continuing. Very soon the situation will be back to normal, even here in Limassol, because as far as I know, all the funds are looking into Limassol. But if you see it from the business side, I can tell you that there are better opportunities in other cities. For example, in Larnaca. Nobody looks at Larnaca, but if I was going to establish another school, I would go to Larnaca for sure and not in Limassol. But okay. So this is it from my side, and I'm glad to answer any questions later on if you want to focus in something specific.
Thank you, Alexi. George, we have heard Pavlos mentioning that approximately 25% of the people that have relocated to Cyprus since 2021 related to essential and lower paid workers, which could be people employed in the hospitality and leisure sector. So how does the shortage of housing or affordability affect people employed in your industry? And how is the industry dealing with this?
Good morning, everyone. Well, I think pretty much we have covered, the previous people covered what I'm about to say. Pavlos was right. What basically happened is all these issues forced us in order to be able to attract good employees, skillful employees, because you understand that opening outlets and opening restaurants like we did at Trilogy with Oris and Musa and bringing well-known chefs, you need the labor as well to back that up. And unfortunately, they will not come to Limassol. They will not come to Limassol for the simple fact that they can't afford Limassol. So what we ended up doing as a company, we covered all this cost. So tomorrow when you come and pay €25 for a burger in Limassol, you will know why. Because unfortunately, this is where we're heading. Before the COVID, our group used to rent 10 apartments, only for the Japanese chefs, that we were allowed to get visas because they were skillful employees. Today we have 72 apartments. So you understand that all that cost, we have to allocate it somewhere. It cannot come from the investors. Obviously, although the investor did take a hit. And then we were doing our research, and our sales and marketing team said, well, with all the foreigners that are now living in Cyprus in this age group, the percentage that goes out and spends money in the leisure and hospitality industry is very small. Of course it's small. They cannot afford it. After they pay rent, after they pay kindergarten, driving, forget it, public transportation, good luck. And that's another major issue for us because none of our employees drives. They live all over Limassol, and we don't stop at 11 o'clock. We stop at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have to get taxis to take them home. And if they work split shift, good luck, that's 2 taxis. So you understand that for us, it's a big issue because it makes us very expensive. It's an issue that other countries don't have to that extent. And usually our competition is Dubai and the Middle East, and there they pay $500 rent. They don't pay any taxes to the government, so whatever money they get from the company, it's in their pocket. They live off their tips, and they will stay there 4 and 5 and 6 years. You mentioned employee turnover. We are looking at 70% employee turnover in our industry. Imagine losing a cook, having to hire another one, train them to come to the consistency and know the menu of the previous cook. And this is an ongoing issue, so I feel happy today that it's not only our industry that has issues. In regards to licensing, good luck. Try opening something. Try. We've been through it, Mihaly, a trilogy. We tried to do a food hall. We went to CTO 70 times, to municipality another 20. They said, do this, we did this. Then somebody else came and said, no, sorry, you can't have a license. Trying to open anything that is not in their book, good luck. Same happened with the Airbnb. Back with the crisis, because we as a country don't plan ahead, we said, okay, 3 to 3-star hotels, get incentives, turn them into apartments, sell them. Then tourist industry goes up, oops, we don't have rooms. So we need to plan ahead. We need to be able to at least try to forecast and solve as much as we can on these issues, because like Mihaly said, you do a project, you try to get a license, you do a feasibility study, and then you get a license 2 years down the road. Well, the numbers you did 2 years ago versus 2 years down the road, especially in Limassol, do not add up. And then you have the investor coming after you, guns blazing, and she is not wrong. At least we don't have any kids around. Well, at least we managed to solve one of your problems. It's a bigger issue that affects everyone. It needs to be a holistic approach to the problem. Because like we said, we will come to the point that we will be just too expensive. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I think we can all agree by now that there is one key challenge, and this is how we can speed up the housing supply. So at this point, I would like to hear your views on potential practical solutions that can help make the situation a bit better. So, Mihaly, if Cyprus wants to increase housing supply quickly, what is the single most impactful change that should happen first?
To correct planning. We need to put the rules and regulations. You know, where does the country want to be? This is where you're going to be building housing. This is how tall you can go. And keep in mind the real things or demands of the market. We're having too many, I said it before, too many conflicting messages. You cannot say, I want to go high, but if you go high, I charge you more. You have to stop all this bullshit with sizes and how big the house is and everything. So I think we have many smart people on the island to sit down, and not for the politicians to be too scared about losing votes from the guy that lives in Gaimakli. Because if the guy that lives in Gaimakli, he also cares that he has employment and he has infrastructure, and for all this to be paid, somebody has to be paying taxes. To be paying taxes, you have to create the environment for the business world to be able to operate. So I mean, for me, the number one is, correct planning, rethink where we are today. We have planning regulations that they were about 20 years old. Yorgos mentioned a trilogy. We opened Nook. We said we want to do a food hall and we want to do this, and have inside a small mini market and everything. And we went to CTO, and they said, but it's not on the list. You can either have takeaway, or you can, make it a restaurant. We said, but we don't want to do this. We want to do something different. This is what the market needs now. I said, I have to now go and check. So we have to be faster to adjust. And I think something that we need to make, in Cyprus we have this thing, we think we're in the center of the universe. And there's no competition around us. And all the companies that came here, they would want to stay here. I think we have to realize that we're in a very competitive world, and we need to be able to adjust quickly.
Thank you, Mihaly. So beyond planning in terms of rental units, Nicola, what practical steps, such as policy incentives, could unlock more housing supply of rental units without, though, compromising quality?
I will comment a bit on the build-to-rent scheme, which I think, if it is promoted, it can be very beneficial generally to the economy. It will direct more capital into into building a new housing stock, and it can, I would say, actually, because this kind of developments tend to be larger in scale, so they can be of higher quality, they can be managed more professionally, more well maintained, and even the quality of services can be better, and it will help increase the standard in the industry. But for the build-to-rent, for me, the most, I would say, important impact it can have is the type of capital that will come into this. And this is, it has the potential of attracting institutional capital, which we don't have, or we have very little of in Cyprus. And this capital tends to be more patient, more stable, less speculative, and we have seen the effects of speculative investments in Cyprus in the past, and we see it in other cities currently. So we want, it will be a good addition of having this kind of capital in Cyprus, and can create a healthier base for the real estate sector. Now, regarding generally the incentives or the policies, we need to understand that real estate in general is a slow-moving animal. So even without licensing, I had the license from the day that I bought the land. For a large-scale development, you need, 3 years? If you are lucky, yes, with luck, to complete it. So we cannot bring so many housing units, and if we add the licensing of 2 or 3 years, then we end up, like Mihaly said, missing entire trends or missing the business cycles, and then it's a totally different game. So modernizing the licensing process, use more technology. We are in a TechIsland event. There is no reason why we cannot have the issue of town planning being reviewed within days or weeks, unless you're making something completely out of scope. A computer software should be able to review whatever you're doing, and then you have someone just check the exceptions, let's say. Or the building permit. We have been discussing in different forums about this. It takes another year to get the building permit, and what do they check? You have the structural engineers, the mechanical engineers, the electrical engineers already have their studies signed, they have the liability. So why does it take 1 more year to do that? Most of it is already just double checking it. So we don't need this. But we understand that we cannot bring this down to zero. Licensing cannot be 0 time. So again, the major issue is planning ahead and planning in a coordinated manner. So we as a private sector or the investment promotion agencies or the chambers, we are promoting, for example, education, technology. The town planning authorities would need to be part of this and anticipate the need and plan ahead and plan the infrastructure ahead of time. If you look at other economies, you go to, I would say, Dubai. I've been a few years back. You see road networks and electricity sewage networks extending it to the desert, and then you go there after 2-3 years and it's already developed. Why? Because they knew this was coming. They anticipated the need. We're doing the opposite. You go to, I don't know, Palodia or Polemidia area, and you have the park building a university. You have 3 or 4 schools, I'm not sure, developing in this area, more than 1,000 residential units. And what is the infrastructure there? We're expecting that the northern bypass road maybe is going to be completed in 10 years from now. So, and then you will ask why we have more congestion and more issues in the area. So, I think that we are on the same boat, yes, with the authorities and with everyone, but if we're sitting on 2 sides of the boat and one side is rowing slower than the other, then we're moving in circles, and this is what we need to change.
Thank you, Nicola. I think we can also consider how diversifying the types of homes available might also affect the current issue. So, Michael, how would increasing supply across different typologies, from small units, family homes, long-term rentals, help stabilize prices and ease pressure on residents?
First of all, from what we've heard today, it is clear that we need to build more. We need clearly more supply across all types of residences, as our role as developers in a country, amongst other things, is to maintain a stability in terms of the product we release out. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket, as to also reduce systemic risk. If we only build luxury and then there's a legislation change, a tax reform, and we are risking that way, and we need to avoid it. What I hear today from your points, and I was taking notes, is we need more infrastructure, we need more schools, more points of interest, and to my ears as developer, it rings the bell of mixed-use developments, new mixed-use developments, large scale. Contradicting, as Mihaly said, because we have many conflicting things. Why would a developer nowadays, and as a food for thought, opt for a large-scale mixed-use development when there is more risk, more time needed, more complications? So the solution is to guide them, either with workable incentives, either with capital markets, all around, public, private sector together to provide this solution. And as a closing remark, we're here and we're saying more, build more, build more, build more. Who is going to build these things? Which infrastructure in Cyprus, which the legal sector drafting the contracts, the administration, whether it is sales, the workers, building the projects. As developers, we want to be held accountable for our projects. We want to keep our promises to our clients. And the quality, the speed, building in time, building to last, they're very important factors to us. So finding a way to bring not only temporary, but as a more permanent form workforce in the construction sector, I think it is amongst the macro things we need to look at as a country.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think it's time to wrap up the discussion. So I think we can all focus on practical solutions that can make Cyprus a better place to work and live. Let's keep this momentum going, and let's make sure that increasing supply is really the key solution to the existing problem. Thank you very much for your insights and experiences. We now have, the Q&A. We have 10 to 15 minutes, so I will start by reading out the questions, and feel free to share any thoughts. So the first question is, do you believe that as more professional build-to-rent operators enter Cyprus with dedicated management and large-scale rental communities, we will begin to see more stable rental prices and better affordability for residents?
Kind of answered that in my previous answer, but I believe yes, it can, because these developments tend to be larger scale. In that sense, they can be, the developer or the operator has the budget, let's say, and to afford having a more professional team. And yes, they can be better managed, better maintained, and have a more long-term value for both the investor, but also for the people living there. Having this can also help affordability, because we have more units, more capital being put into this market.
Thank you. What forms of corporate involvement in housing do you see as realistic for tech companies? Long-term lease guarantees, housing allowances, or co-investment in build-to-rent projects?
When I look at us here, it's very interesting because each of you here have solved a problem, right? You didn't have schools, you built them. Like you're building a ring, right? You're bringing the people, you want leases, you have your Japanese chefs and you have your taxis. So effectively what all of you have done is said, there is a problem, the government is hopeless, so I'm going to go and fix it ourselves. And I think that's where TechIsland has a role to play. And I was having that conversation a few days ago that TechIsland's role is not only, in my view, and obviously we haven't talked about this, that's why I'm going to say it publicly, of course, why not? I don't think the role, yes, it's a lobby group, and yes, it has a role to play in setting up and managing this community that is being created, but I think it also has a role to play on how we solve the problems rather than relying on the government. So if we have a problem, not if, but people have a hard time with leases and whatever, okay, we will standardize the leases. We will vet, you want to rent your home, no problem. You need to be vetted by us. Somebody will come and inspect the home, somebody will come and take the photos, and this we can't do it. I mean, it's doable. We will standardize. And it's not a case of if, but only the people around here, the 2-3 companies to get involved, there is going to be enough momentum under the TechIsland umbrella to create effectively a parallel economy, if I can call it, where progressively what you're going to have a split in pricing because you're going to have a vetted landlord versus a not vetted landlord, standardized versus not standardized, and then the person who's going to look at the non-standardized is going to turn around and say, well, hold on a minute, why aren't you standardized like everybody else? So, once you create quality and standardization, people tend to migrate towards that. In a similar manner, and I know your point about mixed use, and I am. So, I don't think that's the solution. I don't think it's Leptos Group who needs to go and build a mixed use. I think it's you 3 together, go and build, or 4, go and build the mixed use together. And I think it's at that scale. And at that scale, we can raise the funds and do it. So we need to think beyond a company. And once we do that, then everything changes. And Cyprus has this beautiful thing where enough people can get in a room, and those people in a room can actually make things happen, unlike other jurisdictions where you can't. Yes, we can go to the state and moan to them about reducing the parkings or increasing the parkings. It was quite funny. Or we can turn and say, forget the state and what they want. We're going to go and build, take 1 million or 2 million square meters and build a new town on our own. And I think that's the type of thinking that we need to go to if we're going to achieve the Dubai element and be able to hit the targets that we want to do. And that's where tech can come into play. And that's where the bank.
And to what Ludmila said before, is that many companies come to the bank and to get a loan so that they can actually create establishments and buildings for their employees, and then they're rented back at very properly priced to their employees so they can match their salary and provide to them this quality of life and affordable prices. And the bank is very keen and has financed a lot of projects of this kind, either tech companies or hotel and entertainment companies that they actually they want to provide the ability to their employees to have an affordable pricing, so that will keep them also in the country, and so they don't have to seek other solutions or relief. So it's a solution that many companies have been thinking, and the bank has been actually doing it and supporting these companies to get these loans.
It's not just that you're providing them a job, a good paying job, you're also providing them a house. And then you're more stuck to your house than to your job, right?
A house with a rental that is affordable and can be covered through their salary. So this covers both the needs of the company and the employee. And of course, the bank has the opportunity to provide funding.
Thank you. From a developer's perspective, what would need to change in planning rules, taxation, or financing for you to prioritize mid-market family housing instead of high-end luxury units?
One of the issues that we have, which I don't know how to be, it's solvable, is there's so many empty properties that people have bought for first residence to take advantage of the VAT, and they have them empty, and nobody's utilizing them. And we have discussed this with the government, that if tomorrow they found a way, I bought an apartment and it's sitting there. I paid 5% VAT. But if I rent it out, and if I put somebody in that probably he's going to destroy the apartment and live without leaving me unpaid rents, I prefer to have it closed and go and pay the 14% difference on that amount. That would take me so many years. So tax authorities, because there's many people that work at the government, which we need those people to be on board, and we have to persuade them that everything is towards the common goal. How do we find a way to put all these units back in the market? There's a lot of units, guys, a lot of units that are simply closed. So for me, one, it's through tax. We as Cybarco, traditionally we have focused on the high end. I mean, we've done Limassol Marina, we've done Trilogy, Afra Hills, and other big projects. Now we're going into a lower price bracket. So we see the demand, but for us to make sense, at least the bigger developer, it has to have scale. So it has to be 100 units. And then again, we come again into how quickly aids the availability of land, so they need to see the zoning, and then how quickly we can put it in the market. And something, I know everybody's touching it, nowadays we have huge problem with building it. And actually, if you speak with very high ranking at the government, which is a little bit sad, they say, if we give you planning permits, who is going to build them? So we're actually doing you a favor. So we're a little bit in this cycle. We're having elections now. So now we're again into this inwards looking little world of ours. Hopefully after this, we can all put pressure, because I think I agree with Pavlos. If we sit together and push, things are being done. We're just frustrated because we're in a small country that, it should have been easier to change stuff.
I was going to say that something that we have not touched upon, but it is something that could help with the supply. It's the brownfield investments. We have talked about greenfields and build to rent, but the brownfield investment is an area where the right incentives and the right changes in the regulation about statutory tenants could really enhance the interest of potential investors in this space and give a boost in the supply of the market more easily.
We have to fix to be able to throw somebody else that doesn't pay rent. Mm-hmm. We need to fix our legal system and the whole operation.
We are sitting in the biggest brownfield site probably in Limassol, and it's the whole area. Yeah. But the master plan was presented in 2011 by Christou. I was there when he was mayor. And it was never approved to go to the town planning authority because the political parties at the municipality were not willing to vote. They were not willing to vote for it because they knew that the people who were supporting them, if they voted for or against, the funding would stop. So nobody voted. So it never went up, the hierarchy. And we have been sitting in this brownfield site. Imagine if from here up to the cola factory or the Limassol Marina, if it was built, 70% of the problems we are discussing here is gone. In terms of office space, parking, central high density to cater for traffic, whatever. And it's stuck in town planning.
I'm trying to choose the last question. How can residential projects, school capacity, and wider social infrastructure be better coordinated so that new housing for families is matched with enough school places and community services?
Now that we are fully aware of the problem, I can guarantee you from our side, as school operators or investors, we can join forces with developers, and as soon as you solve the problem to get the licenses, especially for big developments, etc., we are ready to invest. And as I said before, we are not going fast track, but at least they pay attention to us and they don't ignore us when we knock their doors to speed up the issuing of licenses. So I believe that the big problem here is the housing, and then schools will adapt. So we have seen projects like you solve the problem for your company. I'm sure more companies will do so, but I see the whole private education sector trying to solve the problem. And as I said before, I strongly believe that in a few years the problem will be solved, and then it remains for you to solve the problem with the housing units, and we will always be there. Keep contacting us and giving us information about these mixed-use projects if you are going to do these mixed projects. Because as far as I know, especially all these big funds are really interested in these projects, and we're going to be there. So I think it all depends on you, actually.
Thank you, Alexi. Any final thoughts, because we need to wrap up?
Although I consider myself a pragmatist, in the end, there's good things in Cyprus. That's why we're all, in the end, are here, and that's why we're an attractive destination. It's just we need to keep pushing better coordination, and something that I think is very important because I was involved in lobbying as part of the Developers Association. You have to be pragmatic and take into account not just the interests of you, but for the general public and the population. Because now there is this, the foreigners are driving the prices up, the foreigners are doing this, blah, blah. We need to find the middle ground so that everybody is happy and we all enjoy the life in Cyprus. I think it's very doable, very doable.
If I could also give another positive note, is that from the bank's perspective, the economy has shown a lot of resilience and stability and growth the past year. And the past year has been a record year in terms of new funding into the economy on various projects and real estate and housing and providing housing loans to individuals. And this trend is going to continue in 2026. So going back to what Alexis said, if everyone is joining forces towards the right direction, indeed we can make a change for a better future for this country.
Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed the session.
Thank you very much, everyone. I think on this pragmatic and positive note, it's a nice wrap-up of the discussion. We talked a lot about coordination and that somebody, I'm thinking in my head, who's this somebody who needs to fix the planning and actually take the responsibility on how we build our society and infrastructure. So we, as TechIsland, we love this role of facilitator and coordinator on bringing all of you different angles and discuss the issue. We are recording, you see how many cameras we brought today in order to analyze the ideas, analyze thought, and think what we can do in actionable way, in collective way further to actually fix the issues. I'm grateful for all of you, speakers, experts, guests, for coming today and sharing this new experiment with us, and hopefully to future similar meetings and discussions on other different topics. Please reach out to us if you have ideas. We will consider it. And yes, thank you. Speakers, please stay for a little bit more, just 5 minutes. All the rest, please enjoy coffee, snacks, and your day ahead. Thank you.